Today I'm going to show you guys the most ironic thing that happened to this tarantula. So this is my Aphonopelma bicoloratum, also known as the Mexican bloodleg. And why I say it's going to be something very ironic, gonna have to be very gentle because tarantulas are very sensitive to movement and vibration. And this one just recently molted, so you're gonna have to be extra careful. So if you guys notice, this tarantula just recently molted. There's the molt right there. Now if you look closely, you can see at the corner over here, this tarantula, you see that part over there, that white part, that is actually an amputated leg. Yep, that white little dot over there. Maybe I can get a better view from the top. Now I wouldn't recommend you guys disturb your tarantula after they molt, but this tarantula already molted for a couple days, so I'm just gonna do this very gently to show you. But before that, I'm gonna push up the aircon flap because I can feel it over here, and you do not want that to blow onto your tarantula because they can get stressed out, especially after a molt. Did the aircon just sounded louder after I did that? I don't even know. Ah yes, my preserved death nugget, my Theraphosa sturmi, matured male back then. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with this. It's been like this for a couple years already, but yeah. Let me know in the comments below what I should do with this. Sorry if you could hear the aircon, my phone. When you put it near the aircon, you get this sound. Yeah, it's very annoying, but sorry about that. Alright, moving back on to my tarantula over here. Very gently lift this lid off. Ah yes, now we can have a perfect view. But before that, let me show you this this girl's enclosure. It is a normal Exoterra enclosure, and it has a big water dish. That way the humidity inside the enclosure is adequate. And then of course we have some damp part of the enclosure to prevent them from going through a bad molt. But despite that, she still went through a bad molt. We've got a little shell of a juvenile red-eared slider over there that I found. But yeah, let's get back to the tarantula. So like I mentioned, you can see this little white part over there. Now that is actually an amputated leg, and if you see at the back over here, right beside that, that is also an amputated leg. So a tarantula usually has 8 legs, like over here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The fronts are pedipalp, so that's not counted. So just the same with this one, you're supposed to have 8 legs. But this one, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 2 has been gone from 8 legs to 6 legs. And why is that, you may ask? Well, that molt over there was stuck on her, right? It was stuck on her. And usually when a tarantula goes through a stuck molt, they actually know that they are going through a stuck molt, and then they will amputate that leg on purpose. They have that ability to just, I don't know how they do it. They disconnect the leg from their body, which is super weird. Or do they bite it off? I'm not too sure. But whatever it is, they take out the leg, amputate it themselves, which is pretty cool and kind of freaky at the same time. But as I was saying, despite the dampness and the large water dish, and I put plastic on the lid, which is mesh. So I put the plastic on, that way the humidity inside does not evaporate too quickly. She still went through a bad molt, which is why I've mentioned in previous videos that external humidity doesn't really affect their molting process. It's their internal fluids that actually affects it. So if a tarantula is not properly hydrated, which is why I stress you need a water dish, they can go through a bad molt, and that is very dangerous. I've had tarantulas that go through bad molt before, and that was just the end. You cannot do anything. They just die after a couple days, which is a very slow, painful, and sad process. Now, this is one of her amputated foot over here, amputated leg. Let me show you. So I believe this one over here, sorry it's not focused, but I believe this one was from that white part over there. Let's take a closer look. As you can see, that is her entire leg from the carapace part until the toes. That is crazy. And this, you see this over here, that is where she amputated it. That is crazy, man. You can still see a little bit of white blood over there. Is it wet? Oh yeah, it is. You can see that right there is tarantula blood. Yep, they do not bleed in red. They bleed in this white milky looking liquid. But yeah, that right there is tarantula blood. That is pretty nasty. It's been a couple days and it is still wet. Now when this girl amputated that leg of hers, that part, that white part, was bleeding non-stop. Now that black part over there, you can see there's a difference, that white part and the black part. That black part over there, it stopped bleeding. She managed to stop the bleeding, but the white part, she just, yeah, she did not manage to stop it, and it just kept bleeding out and bleeding out, which is very, very harmful to tarantulas. Very, very risky. They can actually bleed to death. So what I did, as you can see at the side of the enclosure, show you. So this is actually powder. You may be thinking, what powder is this? Look at this. Yep. What powder is this? This is actually cornstarch. If you have a tarantula that is injured, or maybe it fell from the top and ruptured the abdomen a little bit, a small cut, or they have mated and the male's tibial hooks scratched the female and she's bleeding, which it happens, or maybe the female tried to grab the male and then bit him a little bit and it's bleeding, it happens. What you want to do is, basically, all tarantula keepers, you should have a supply of cornstarch. I don't care if you keep 1 tarantula, 10 tarantulas, 100 tarantulas, 1,000, 100,000 tarantulas, you will need cornstarch, okay? Just get a container. You don't need a lot like this. I just bought a lot because it's cheaper, but you don't need a lot. You just maybe even need this much, to be honest, and then put it in a small deli cup, put it in your closet or in your tarantula room or wherever the tarantulas are near, and keep it for emergency cases. Because let me demonstrate. If, let's say, your tarantula is bleeding, right? You see, I just put a little bit of water over there on the floor. What you can do is you get some cornstarch and you just blab it on like that. So what the cornstarch does, it solidifies. You see, it actually solidifies. Ugh. See, it solidifies and it stops the bleeding of tarantulas. And that is crucial because, just like humans, if a tarantula continues to bleed and bleed and bleed, they're going to die. You see, now this cornstarch is solid. Let me give you another demonstration. Tarantula is bleeding non-stop. Bam! Put some cornstarch on. Just slowly, gently press it on. Well, you don't have to. It will absorb the water by itself. And then, in no time, it kind of gets solid and you do not have to worry too much anymore. Now, do note that this is not foolproof. It's just one way that you can stop your tarantula from bleeding. But if the tarantula is injured too badly or it has bled for too long, then this might not work. But in the initial stages, it should be able to save your tarantula's life, which is exactly what I did for this girl. You can see the white part over there. That is actually cornstarch that has absorbed the blood and stopped the bleeding. Compared to the black part over there, I know tarantulas have the capability to actually stop the bleeding themselves, but there are certain times that they are not able to. So that is when the cornstarch comes into play. So as a tarantula keeper, like I mentioned, you keep 1, 2, 10, 100, thousands, 100,000, a million tarantulas, I don't care. You will need cornstarch, okay? You will need this because it's going to save your tarantula's life should anything happen to them. Now I have to wash my hands again. Now, if you notice your tarantula amputated its leg or several of its legs, you don't have to worry. You're gonna have to worry if they're stuck in the molt. But if they've come out of the molt and their legs you see have been amputated or missing, don't worry about that, because it will grow. Those 2 legs will grow back to normal size after maybe 2 or 3 molts. Yes, tarantulas can and will regenerate back their limbs. Like I said, you're gonna have to worry way more if they're stuck to the molt, especially once they've already dried out, because that is pretty much a death sentence. You cannot do anything when their molt has been stuck to their body and they cannot move, they cannot eat, pretty much they're gone. So yeah, just wanted to show you guys this. She amputated both her legs and you don't have to worry about that. Just in case, you know, new hobbyists, when they see their tarantula's legs exposed, amputated on the side like this, they start to panic. I did when I first started keeping, and I was like, oh no, my tarantula is going to be handicapped forever. No, that's not the case. They can and will grow back those limbs. I'm not sure if you remembered my Xenestis imanis. She also amputated her leg, and look at this. Now her legs are fully grown and she's all back to 8 legs. Very, very gorgeous girl. It did take her over a year though, because like I said, it takes 2 to 3 molts and some maybe 4. But it's not like the next molt, the leg just appears poof. No, it does not happen like that. It's a very gradual process. So maybe the next molt, you'll see just a little short, little stubby leg, but it will get longer as different molts come. So yeah, guys, just wanted to share that with you because there's a perfect example of a tarantula with 2 limbs gone, because yeah, unfortunate things do happen even if you keep the tarantula enclosures damp. Now that can happen because I said it's basically their internal fluids. Nothing much to do with the external humidity. I mean, it does play a role, but internal is the most important. So keep your tarantulas hydrated. Feed them at least, I mean, adults, you can feed them at least once a month, but don't go longer than that. They can go longer than that, but they need their internal fluids, you know. For slings, feed them maybe once or twice a week. Juveniles, once a week is good. Adults, you can go once a month. No issues. I wouldn't feed your adults once a week because it's a little bit too much and you can shorten their lifespan. So yeah guys, that'll be it for today's video. Just wanted to share with you my experience on, well, actually this is my second or third experience of a tarantula amputating their limb. I'm not sure if I filmed, I did film the Zenestis one, but the other one, I'm not sure if I filmed that. If I did, it's probably very long time ago. So yeah guys, that'll be for today's video. Like I mentioned, don't worry if your tarantula loses a limb in the molting process. You're gonna have to worry if they're stuck in the mold. In the beginning of this video, I'll mention that I'm gonna show you something ironic. Okay, so you know this tarantula is called the Mexican blood lake. The ironic thing is, she was bleeding non-stop. This tarantula was bleeding non-stop to a point where I'll have to use freaking cornstarch in order to save her life. Yup, blood leg indeed. And it was at the leg too. How ironic. So yeah guys, that'll be it for today's video. Hope you found this video helpful, informative, enjoyed it. I don't know how you found this video. Leave a like if you liked it and thumbs it down if you did. I'll see you in the next video. I'm not gonna keep that because yeah, it still has blood inside, so it's gonna start to rot and flies and maggots are gonna come. So goodbye.